This is a brand new story that I wrote with all of you in mind because I love this reading series, and it was a fantastic bonus when we moved here to Flagstaff. So thank you to Jesse and Jay for keeping it going. Pot Brownie. On the day I decided to move out, the sky looked like the bottom of a pool, all white squiggles and aquamarine. Ma had put her foot down. "Joseph," she'd said, "you are 31 years old. I am sick and tired of the drugs in the attic. No more. 1 week from now, you pee in this jar." By drugs, she meant pot, which is basically just an herbal supplement to lessen the pain of the neck injury I got 6 months ago when my friend Chow hit a sedan. Grams, rest her soul, who'd lived in the attic before me, had filled it with tons of drugs. She'd been flying high for all of her waking hours, I bet. But people were fine with that so long as the drugs came from a prescription. Well, I wouldn't take it. I'd find somewhere else to live. In the backpack that I hadn't used for years, ever since I'd quit college before getting my business degree, I packed flip-flops, underwear, socks, and a change of clothes. In the front pouch, I stuck my cell phone charger, a favorite pipe, and condoms. I hadn't been laid in weeks. Okay, 7 months and 2 weeks since right before I moved in with Ma, but it was good to be prepared. I poked my head through the doorway at the top of the attic stairs and looked toward the kitchen, Ma's preferred hangout spot ever since Grams had died. Before then, she and Grams had puttered all over town, dinner theaters, doctors, tchotchke shops. It was Grams dying, way more than my financial/housing issues that really caused me to move back in with Ma. She needed someone, and I was all she had left. If I was going to make a clean escape, I had to quit thinking this way. Slowly, quietly, I walked out the front door so that I could hear if Ma started to come after me. I didn't want to cause a scene, didn't want her begging me to stay, because my resolve might not hold through her crying. When I first moved in to cheer Ma up after Grams' passing, Ma had started to sob right off. She'd said, "I was alone for 1 month," and I'd hugged her and apologized for leaving her so long. Sitting in the 15-year-old Camry I'd inherited from Grams, I scanned the house's windows, which stayed empty of Ma's face. Just to make sure, I drove a loop around the cul-de-sac before I departed. Out on the open road, the feeling of freedom I had expected to course through my veins was slow in arriving. Maybe it was all the stoplights. In Phoenix, you can't get away from them. Each red light was a burden, warning me to go back, because Ma needed me. But then I would remember the way she'd pointed at my bloodshot eyes and told me no more, that my pastime, as she called it, was no longer welcome in her home. And here I've been thinking of it as our home. After less than a mile, I wound up at JJ's, the cigar-head liquor shop, where a few of my friends worked at the cash register. I worked there too once before JJ figured out that my measly paycheck left me always in the hole on my account with his store. Something about that just made him mad, and instead of giving me a raise or a better discount on the merch, he fired me. Stupid business model if you think about it. "What's up, Chow?" I said when I walked into the store and saw that he was working. A couple of old guys were smoking cigars in the glassed-in room, and Chow's dog lay on the floor where the cooler blew out warm air, but other than that, the place was empty. "Whoa, man," Chow said. "Haven't seen you in a while." I shrugged. "Gotta keep an eye on my ma, you know. Or did. I'm moving out, actually." Chow dropped his eyes. "That's cool," he said, "but you know, I don't have room." "I didn't ask, did I? Anyhow, I want to live somewhere tight. Right downtown, maybe. Walk to the bars. Gotta avoid those drunk driving charges. Right on." Chow stood straighter as a customer walked in, an older lady. "Rita, hey," he said. "Case of menthols?" "Yeah," she said as she walked towards the beer cooler. "Rita lives with her mom, too," Chow told me. "They split the cigs and beer. Makes things chill between them or something, you know." "I don't live with my mom. Not anymore." Saying this kind of thing out loud felt a little overwhelming, a little like when I left home for the first time to go to college down in Tucson, where my roommate and, it seemed, practically everyone else around me joined fraternities. So I would be alone night after night, trying to sleep through the sounds of girls giggling and crying in the halls, and the flush from the bathroom. And then I'd drive the 2 hours home on weekends with the back seat full of dirty laundry and find things changed, a new painting on the wall, or my room's mattress stripped naked, or a man, Ma's boyfriend of the month, slumped against the couch. "So why are you leaving?" Chow asked as he rung up Rita's cigs and beer. She pulled a wad of singles from her bra, and the way the money sat there, crumpled on the countertop, reminded me of shed snakeskin. "Ma became a dictator," I said. "It's my house, too. Was." "Let me guess." Chow looked around. Rita had left by this point. We were alone. "The marijuana. She hates it. Am I right?" I tried to hide my surprise. That's part of it, maybe, but it's time for me to get out. You know, I need my own place, my own scene. Let me ask you this. Chow broke open a pack of the licorice that kept his tongue black like that of his canine namesake and said, "Your mom, she ever smoke up?" I laughed so hard that Chow's dog startled out of his nap. Guess that's a no. Chow offered me some licorice, but I hate its gummy texture. Well, why don't you get her to? Two of you could do it together, a bonding experience. And then she would see it isn't so bad. It's nothing, really. I don't know, I said, but Chow had me thinking. He was good at advice. He'd been the one to tell me to sync up my breathing with the breathing of this girl I liked. So I did, sitting next to her in a movie theater, and when our pinkies touched in the dark, it was on. He'd also suggested that I grow my hair long to cover up the way my ears stuck far out from my head, and it was amazing the difference all that hair made in my life. You think she'd come around? It wouldn't hurt. But no, I said, it would never work. She would never smoke. It's like it's too vulgar somehow. Then you get her to eat it. You get her a brownie. The two of you split a brownie. That'll make it all good. Yeah, maybe. Ma did like brownies, cookies, pastries, all that stuff. And she'd never been high, so no wonder she didn't see the appeal. Maybe Chow was right, and all she needed was to loosen up. I have some good brownie shit right now, Chow said. Give me 20 and I'll hook you up. My hand was reaching for my wallet before he'd finished the sentence. I could always eat the brownie myself if this idea about Ma didn't pan out. Let's meet up later, Chow said, and I'll get you that stuff. As I walked across the parking lot, the sun raked my skin, reminding me that I hadn't been spending a lot of time outside. Now that I visited Chow, I didn't know where else to go. The neighborhood was no longer familiar, like it had been 15 years ago when I was a kid and running all around, heading home when I was hungry to find Graham's baking cookies. So after a few miles on the loop, I decided to drive through downtown and check out the rental scene. Cruising slow out of necessity for the shitty downtown traffic, I scanned windows and the little patches of gravel that passed its front yards for rental signs. The first sign I found, a tall stucco complex, I pulled over. A studio. That was good. That was all I needed. But then I saw the price, $700 a month. This was far more than I'd been expecting, or frankly, I hadn't been expecting the money part at all. I just sort of glossed over that detail. From a container on the signpost, I took a sheet, the rental application. $25 fee, 4 references. Ma could be one, and maybe Chow. But no, he was on probation from hitting that sedan. I started to feel a little bit screwed. For the couple of hours until Chow got off, I drove around looking at the concrete. By the time I thought to check the gas gauge, the tank was nearly empty. There was only $5 left in my wallet, and I was hungry, so I spent $2 on gas and the rest on hot dogs. The gas was just enough to get me to Chow's place. The Camry, running on empty, rolled to a stop at the curb. When Chow came out from the back room, I could tell that he was already good and high. "Chocolate, man," he said. "Here's your precious brick of chocolate." The brownie, wrapped in clear plastic as if for a bake sale, covered the palm of my hand. "You rock," I said. "Hey, you think you could give me a ride home?" His face flipped to mean. "You're crazy. I'm never getting in a car with you again." Abandoning the Camry at Chow's, I walked along the road's gravel shoulder, picking my way around the prickly pear and cholla sprouting from the rock as if rooted in nothing. I hadn't necessarily decided to go back to Ma's place, but she lived only 10 blocks away. Besides, the brownie hung low in my pocket, dense with expectation. Chow was basically a smart guy. Maybe my duty was to get Ma high so that she could see its merits, and then I wouldn't have to worry about the apartment and the job and the cooking and cleaning for myself, the lonely nights and TV bought on installment, the waking up to a shrill alarm clock rather than the scent of coffee wafting up the stairs. Once inside Ma's front door, the smell of popcorn and the wail of a cello told me that she was in the living room watching a made-for-TV movie. I stood at the edge of the carpet, silent, expecting her to exclaim that she was so happy I'd changed my mind, that she'd missed me, been worried, had already called the police, avowed to preserve the attic, not moving a single video game controller until my return. Instead, she patted the seat beside her, eyes caught on the screen. Sitting, I could tell right off that the movie was another one of those ones about maniac husbands who have 2 households across the country from each other. "Hey, Ma," I said, casual, nice and slow. "You want some brownie?" As she looked at me, I held my face in a smile. "Thanks," she said, taking the half I offered. We sat there eating, and then I settled in to wait for the high. It came when the man in the movie walks into a coffee shop to find both of his wives sitting on the same side of a red pleather booth. I started laughing. "This part is so upsetting," Ma said. "Why are you laughing?" But she had a big grin on her face, too, like she might crack up at any moment. The man in the movie sits across from his wives as they tell him that they want a divorce. They found another man they want to marry. "Both of you?" he asks, and they nod. He realizes that his whole life has been a lie. Ma and I laughed so hard that our cheeks knotted up like runners' calves at the end of a marathon. I saw traces of dark chocolate stuck far back on Ma's molars. We grabbed at each other's arms and gargled on our own spit. A rush of warmth through all my veins told me that I made the right decision by slipping Ma that pot brownie, that its effects will repair all the stupid little things that have come between us since Grams died. That time I had the munchies and ate every snack that Ma had so carefully prepared and left in the fridge for the next day's ladies' luncheon. The MILF porn I failed to hide under the mattress, even though I knew she was coming in to clean my room. The time I called her a bitch when she wouldn't stop asking what I had done to make JJ fire me. The time that I told her I was glad Grams had raised me while Ma worked her dumbass job. That other time I grabbed the wheel when Chow was driving because I thought that it would be funny. And then he smashed into that parked sedan and Ma had to pick us up from the police station. All that terrible stuff just fell away as we watched the man's life crumble in the made-for-TV movie and laughed our heads off because we were stoned. Finally, Ma grabbed her stomach and let the giggles trail off. Why is this so funny? Before I gave her the brownie, I hadn't had time to think about whether or not I should tell her the truth. Since I didn't feel all that articulate, I said, "Yeah, it's fun. Just nice and casual and whatever. The two of us getting along." The movie had ended. Credits scrolled across the screen. I changed the channel to something mindless with loud music and beautiful people. "Just taste this popcorn, Ma," I said. "Just look at the television. Isn't it all so great?" We sat there, feeling close to one another, finally. Whatever Chow had put in that pot brownie was some good shit. Maybe I was having a sugar high at the same time, intensifying everything. "I'll try to walk quieter at night," I said, the knob of my tongue, a brand new feeling in my mouth, "because I know it wakes you up sometimes, my feet on your ceiling." After a minute, Ma said, "Oh, what?" "I just imagined your feet, lots of them, plastered across my ceiling, like wallpaper. You had the tiniest feet when you were a baby." Maybe we had plunged together into a warm pool of brownie goo, and this was all the interaction that we needed to get back to the easy way things had been before I moved out for the first time. And you know, I reached out and found Ma's hand warm like dough rising on the center couch cushion. We can do this kind of stuff more often together. You see now, it's not so bad. My body was feeling buoyed up as if by a breeze, and I wrapped my arms around myself against the chill. The pattern of goosebumps across my arms seemed purposeful, as if my skin were trying to write me out a message in Braille, but I never learned Braille. I turned to Ma to show her my arms, but she no longer sat beside me. Her cushion felt cold to my touch. She wasn't in the kitchen or a bedroom. Maybe someone had broken in to kidnap her, or she'd gotten spooked and was hiding in a cupboard. Chow's idea might not have been so great after all. Maybe he'd only said that I should get Ma high to calm me out of my last $20, and now the consequences would be dire. "Ma," I said, wandering through the house. "Ma?" The beige walls and beige carpet and beige tile blended together so that I worried I'd been baked into a casserole, all hot and sticky and bland. I'd eaten too much brownie, way too much. Chow, that asshole, should have warned me of its potency. A noise, a sort of rattling, came from upstairs and then a rush of water. I found Ma surrounded by baggies, pipes, papers, and piles of weed in my attic bathroom. She was cross-legged on the floor in front of the toilet. "Whoa, Ma," I said, "one little taste and you're already way into it, huh?" But then she turned. Her cheeks were streaked with lines of mascara and her mouth hung crookedly as if it were broken. "How could you do that to me?" she said. "Drug me." She'd figured it out somehow. Panic made my muscles tighten. "That's not it. Things have been, did you even notice that I ran away from home?" "Ran away from home?" She threw maybe an eighth into the toilet. "You are in your 30s. How do you run away from home?" "Didn't you miss me? Did you even notice that I was gone?" "Look at all this stuff I found." She gestured at my paraphernalia. "Tons of it, all in your room. What are you thinking? What if the cops did a raid? They would arrest me too. This is my house. It makes me sick, the memories you've brought back." "Ma," I said, "I think the weed is making you paranoid." She flushed the toilet, and I had to keep myself from crying out at the loss of the eighth. Did you think I wouldn't notice? She shook her head. It took me a moment, but I knew. I wanted you to feel good, I said, that's all. I wanted us to do something together. The weed was making you have fun. I thought if you could see how I feel, finally just try it. You know it wasn't bad. She shattered a glass pipe against the bowl of the toilet. I've done pot before, she said. Of course I have. That's how I know what it could do to you, why I need you to stop wasting your life and money, my money. My whole face felt strange, like it had plunged underwater. Are you sure? I asked. It made me stupid. The worst choices in my life being high. That's how I got pregnant with you, you know. I wasn't careful. I had to swallow hard in order to keep my throat open for breath. And what you did just now, Ma said, slipping me drugs, it's like a violation of my body, just like you've been doing ever since you were born. She clutched her belly, and it was true. I'd forced my way out of there. Ma, calm down. It's okay. I won't leave again. I know you've been sad since Grams died, but I'll stay here with you. I won't leave you alone. Grams? She was practically shrieking. When Grams found out, she didn't only make me pee in a jar. She had me fired from my job, run out of town. You could do that back then in a place like Ash Fork. Grams? I said, sweet old Grams? She would never make you do that just for smoking weed. It wasn't only the weed, it was you too. Don't you see that? Getting pregnant with you. I didn't move. Ma crushed buds between her fingers and let them fall into the bowl. But Grams, she helped you out, Ma. She moved in after I left because you had that empty nest thing. She moved in, Ma said, so that I would keep track of her pills and feed her and do her laundry. So I would drive her to Walmart because they took away her license, so I would scrub her toilet. Ma laughed, a fuck you kind of laugh, maybe to Graham's ghost. You and Grams, I said, you did everything together. I thought you wanted me to fill some of that space. After Grams died, I thought I would finally get my life back. But then you came, and it started all over again, the caretaking. Ma was still slumped down there on the bathroom floor like a drunk, waiting for the next hot, unstoppable outpouring. But, I said, my voice almost drowned out by the flush gurgle of the toilet, you practically asked me to move in with you. I'm cursed, she said. Ma, come on, you don't know what you're saying. Everything will seem better when you've come down. You'll remember all the good stuff and how you begged me to come live with you. I started to remember then, too, Ma's phone call after Grams died, how she said the house was so quiet, and how I'd shown up a few weeks after that, after I'd lost my job and couldn't pay the rent, saying, surprise, when Ma came home from the store to find me installed in Grams' old room. The smell of Grams still up there, gardenias and medicine easily covered up with the sweet stink of weed. Surprise, I'd yelled, and Ma clutched at her heart as she said, I was alone for 1 month only, and started to cry. I'd laughed through the haze of my high at what I had assumed were her happy tears.